on the postgraduate student-lecturer relationship during the supervision. The student here I'll be referring to as the supervisee. So when you find that they are mentioning supervisee, I want to believe that you know that they are mentioning the student. But some things have cropped as I was listening to the previous presenter, specifically on the title, postgraduate student-lecturer relations. Who is a supervisor? Who is a supervisor? And what is the relationship? Depending on where you are driving your definition, I want to believe that at one point we have to agree on the definition. Because I have heard somebody complain about supervising a senior member of staff, is a junior member, and is the one supervising. So I want to believe that if we understand who is a supervisor and who is a supervisor, I want to believe that we don't have those challenges during supervision. Because some things must just be put straight at the beginning of a relationship. The relationships we know most are the married relationships. And we know them, those who are married. And if you are not married, you can attest of them because we come from a family. Yes. So these relationships are real and they come across. And that's why we are joining them, the student-lecturer relationship. Before I go to the introduction, because I know the slide of supervision, I want us to maybe by way of brainstorming for 2 or 3 minutes to get to understand who is a supervisor and who is a supervisor. Because if I understand myself as a supervisor, then I'll be able to draw the line between myself and my subject, who is the supervisor. Yeah. For those who are in the medical field, they will tell you that a supervisor is a senior professional person within the medical field who is there to guide actually the tenets of the profession. As the junior members come in, they give them directions on what to be done, specifically to guard on the quality of the medical services. But in academics, it's like the definition tends to change a bit. And that's why I want us to brainstorm on who is a supervisor and who is a supervisee. Because as we brainstorm on those 2 terminologies, I want to believe that we'll be guided by some core values. Because as I engage you as my supervisee, I should be having some core values. The core values which I'm deriving from my university. The university in question is Kisii University. As a university, we have some core values which we cannot be able to compromise. If I've been bestowed with that responsibility of being a supervisor, and you happen to be my boss, then you'll have to submit to be my junior. Junior in the sense of the profession. Profession-wise, you are my junior. But when it comes to the job, you are my senior, and I respect you at that particular level. And once we understand these 2 things at the beginning, the very beginning of the process, because my colleagues has talked about the relationship being a continuous process. So if we understand it at the very beginning, I want to believe that we will not have any issues. And the supervision exercise will be much more enjoyable because we understand each other and we understand each one's roles within the exercise. So forgetting about the dictionary definition of the supervisor, we all have our own, because we are academicians, we all have our own definition of a supervisor. Who is a supervisor? Who is a supervisor? You have to be fast on that. Let's look at the supervisor as somebody who is senior in the profession. And I want to believe that you agree with me. That a supervisor is somebody in the profession who is senior. And a supervisee is somebody who is junior. Forget about the age and all those other things. But in terms of the profession, I'm your senior. Because if you have a master's degree or you have undergraduate certificate, and I happen to have a master's degree, and I've been given a responsibility to direct you on something, then I'm your senior, academic-wise. If I happen to be a supervisor at the PhD level, then it will always remain that I was your senior for that case as far as the profession is concerned. I am your senior, irrespective of the position we hold in the offices. Yeah. And I want to believe that you'll agree with me that in the developed countries, those guys are normally respected. Yeah. They will always introduce their seniors by their names. And they will not shy away from saying that this is my senior. But nowadays, I believe that in Kenya, that is not the case. Once we transit from being the supervisor, and you want to believe that we have now gone into the club of the supervisor, we now forget him and we refer to him as a colleague, or to her as a colleague. And that is where we go wrong. This person will always remain to be your senior, irrespective of the milestones you are bound to make. This person will always be your senior in the profession. So who is this supervisor? You don't understand me. Apart from my definition, I've given that one of the senior professional person who is there to give direction to a colleague who is a junior. Remember, we are referring to a student as a colleague because he's within the same profession. And that's why my colleague here talked of what? As in, you cannot supervise a topic which you are not conversant. Yeah. I'm supervising on this particular topic because I want to believe that I'm adequately prepared in everything. Yeah. If I'm not prepared, or if I'm not adequately prepared, then I want to believe that that is not my area. And then it goes without saying that I'm not a senior to this person. Yeah. I cannot refer to this person as my junior. Because if we use the terms supervisor and supervisory, then it will be implied that I'm the senior and he's my junior. And I want to believe that that is where we get most of the problems, especially as we go along the supervision process. Because this person we are referring to as a junior, at times will challenge us. And you know how we normally behave. Yeah, defense mechanism. Yeah, we'll always defend and say that whatever we have said is the gospel truth. Yeah, and you must follow that. Not knowing that this person, if you are to take keen and listen to this person, you'll find that he's knowledgeable on that subject which you purport to be the same. Okay. So, if we can agree that the supervisor is a senior member of a profession who gives direction to a junior member of the profession, that is the supervisor, then you can allow me to proceed. Yes. Thank you. My presentation does not have a lot of discussion, and I have just mentioned who is a supervisor and what the kind of relationship. But a point I wanted to highlight in this particular slide is the initial relationship which we are supposed to have before we commence this relationship. Yeah. What kind of relationship are we supposed to have? Because in the beginning, we have not developed any relationship. We have just met. It's like we are dating. Yeah, we have not had any kind of relationship. I've just met my student today, for example, and I'm supposed to be the supervisor. I've not met the student initially, and this is the first time I'm meeting the student, and this is the first time the student is also meeting me. How do we proceed from that point? I think this is where we lose the point. We fail to get an agreement. A colleague talked about, the guy talked about the contract. If we fail to get an agreement, a formal agreement written down and signed by both parties, then I want to believe that the supervision process will be a challenge, a very big challenge. But if we make the student to commit themselves that yes, my name is so and so, and you are so and so, yes. I will be your supervisor. Do you agree? Yes, because some students will even decline. Yeah, they meet you and they say, no, 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 I never thought that you are the one who was the supervisor. It has happened. Yes, because one, for those who are in the administrative offices, before a meeting commences, you always sign the conflict of interest. Yeah, why do we have that register, conflict of interest register? Yeah. So that you cannot be biased in whatever discussion is bound to take place. Yeah. Otherwise, if we continue without in that meeting without stating whether you have an issue which can conflict in your decision making, then I want to believe that things might not be good. Yeah. So even during supervision, we should be able to declare conflict of interest. Here you have a student who is the spouse of your friend. Will you proceed? Definitely you cannot proceed supervising that student. Yeah. Because at one point you know that you'll be compromised. Yeah. And the person, even the directorate, which has given you this student to supervise, might not be privy of such information. But you know that this person, we have another relationship. So which other relationship are you now going to develop? And the relationship is already there. Yeah. It becomes a challenge. Yeah. It becomes a challenge. And that's why you should decline at that early stage. And you go, you tell your boss that, I'm sorry, I can continue. This is my area. And I'm very much willing, but I'm conflicted in this supervision. I'm likely to delay this student. I'm likely to make this student complete the work before the stipulated time. Yes, I make sure that the student has something which he was supposed to cover within 3 years, finishes within 2 years. Then you start much timing. Because it's a PhD, just wait until 3 years are over so that you can submit. And you have already cleared everything. Some things do happen. Yeah. Because we have another relationship. The relationship we are talking about here is not that one of the supervisor-supervisee relationship. There's another one, conflict of interest. So it's good that we get to know that if we have a conflict of interest, we excuse ourselves and say that no, it is not possible. And that one will be during the contract formation. As we draw the contract, because a contract is an agreement between the two of us, and for it to be binding, it must be formed. Yeah. So if you find that during the drafting of the contract, you happen to have some knowledge about this person, because some students can just keep quiet, or someone can keep quiet, especially for those supervisors or colleagues, professional colleagues who are engaged. We just meet a student, yes, this is my supervisor. And you fail to understand that this person knows you very much. Yeah, because the students who are growing professional-wise, yeah, they tend to master us. They know you. For example, if you are teaching undergraduate students, 100 students in a class, or 50 plus, you cannot know all the students. You cannot master all of them. But all those 50 students will have known you, because it's one against the entire class. Yeah. So it's good before even you draw the contract, you have a rapport. You have a discussion, you engage each other, get to know the person well. Yeah. And after getting to know the person very well, it's now when you can make a decision. Should I now proceed and make a formal contract with this client? Because we have been told that because one of the days we used to have the PSSC students. Yeah. So at the end, and universities must continue. Where do we get money? From the student, from the researcher. This one cannot be possible if we are not treating our students the way they are supposed to be treated. They are supposed to be treated as customers. Some institutions refer to the students as customers. Yeah, and they have a customer at their desk. Yeah. So if you have been inculcated in that particular kind of norm, then you'll be able to see the student as a customer and not as what? Not just as a mere student. Yeah. Because if you don't have the student, where will you get the pay? At the end of the month, the student will not have paid anything. A student who was supposed to pay 500,000 shillings this month so that he can be able to defend his work, fails to pay. Why? Because you disagreed with the student at one point. The university loses a lot of money. So the money which was supposed maybe to buy reagents, the reagents which you are talking about here, and equipment. If that is not the case, then you find that as in the university will be losing a lot of money. So what is a relationship vis-a-vis the lecturer and the supervisor? After making that contractual agreement, then it's also good you understand the kind of relationship. Because as my colleague said, it's a process. You might find that the relationship keeps on changing. The way you are relating 1 month ago is not the way you are relating right now. It happens. At the first time when you meet your student is seated on the other side and you are seated here. Yeah. As time progresses, the student, yes, 3 meters away. Yeah. By the time you are 6 months in the supervision, there's no gap. Yeah. So how do you define that relationship? Because the relationship which we had in mind was defined, but it has changed over time. Yeah. That requires someone with profession. Yeah. You need to observe some kind of professionalism. And again, you need to have understood the core values of the university. Because the core values will be able to drive you. Yeah. So that you can be able to draw the line. Yeah. Past this line, it's no longer supervision. Yeah. If you cross this line, then we are not supervising. We have a different what? Relationship. The relationship we had was that when you were seated there and I was seated where? Here. Yeah. But as you come close, no, that is not a relationship. It has happened. Because how will you be able to to critique someone who is just so close to you like that? Would you have the energy to critique? No, you cannot have the energy to critique. Yes. But if we have that social distance, then I want to believe that you'll be able to stick to the contractual what? Agreement. And whatever you agree will be able to be seen, to be reflected in each and every step of the supervision process. Yeah. But do we do that? Do we do that? At times we share even the laptop. Yes. Can you come close? This is what I want to show you. Yeah. Yeah. And don't forget that you have only one chair. Yeah. The student will have to stand. And it's a lady. Yeah. So what will happen? And she leans to you, what will happen? She'll be leaning to you or more. Conflict of interest. Yes. Yeah. Supervision now becomes compromise. And at that point, you fail now to become that senior person in the profession. You now start becoming a colleague. Yeah. And that's why I think it was the director was saying that we should not overstay with students. The more you overstay with a student, the more the relationship is eroded. Yeah. We erode. Yeah. Some universities have come up with some lecturers whereby students, postgraduate students go for what? Consultation. If we are to meet, can we meet at the university? Where you know the room where we normally meet? Because we have postgraduate rooms. Yeah, can we meet there? Yeah. Because this idea of meeting anywhere is the one which brings the issue of compromise. Yeah. And the relationship becomes also what? Compromise. And the student now over delays. Because somebody might make the advances. Yeah. Not even the supervisor. The student can make some advances. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why you find that some of our colleagues, instead of making the correction, advising the student, they'll now start doing the work for the student. Yes. You should not have written this. This is what I mean. So let us change this to this. Yeah. Let us delete this and include this. And the students are very happy when you work like that. Yes. So will you have given direction really? Because my colleague talked about what? Mastery of the content. Yeah. The student will not have mastered any content there. Yeah. Because for you to add some knowledge, especially on research for the PhD student, you should have mastered the content. Yeah. You have not mastered the content because your supervisor did the work for you. And here you are doing the PhD, and the student insists that I must be supervised by the same one supervisor. Yeah. Then the student graduates, and now he becomes the supervisor. What will happen? Quality will be compromised. Yeah. And that is where we are. Yeah. That is where we are, and I strongly disagree with the idea that we should supervise our colleagues. We should not be supervising our colleagues because positive criticism might be turned to be negative what? Criticism. Yeah. You find that you are walking around here and colleagues are seeing you negative. This is the person who doesn't want me to graduate. Yeah. Yeah. He's always disturbing me. Because you can be sure that you'll not be given an opportunity to be heard, to say what the student is not doing. Yeah. So you have already been prosecuted. Yeah. So relationship is something which needs to be considered seriously. Because as institutions of higher learning, our colleagues are also upgrading their certificates. Yeah, as they upgrade, who is bound to supervise them? It's colleagues, the same colleagues. Yeah. So what kind of relationship will you be developing in the initial stages of your work? And the relationship is already there. That's why I said that it's always important to be very clear and you state that I'm conflicted in this kind of work. I'm not able to supervise. I'm not able to supervise this person. Unless if you have not had a relationship. Yeah. If it's somebody from another department, you can be able to supervise. If it's from the same department, then you should not be close. Everybody should be able to acknowledge that indeed there's always a gap between these two people. Yeah. But if they're always working in the same vehicle, going to lunch together, when is the supervision taking place? During lunch hour. It becomes an issue. Yeah. So failure to respect or compliment the supervisee, or even comparing two supervisees might be a source of problem, and it's always good to act professionally and treat them differently. We are led students. You are supervising two students, and you know that the students cannot be the same. Yeah. Then you want to imply that the problems of the previous student is the same as this one. Yeah. You students have been telling you that this is not how you are supposed to organize your work. Yeah. Can you go and consult so and so? You cannot make a reference. You cannot refer the student to another student. Because you have a relationship, two different types of relationship with these two students. And you should be able to know, to act professionally and be able to differentiate the relationship between one student and the other student. So that you can be able to offer a positive criticism. Because if I'm weak in data analysis, it does not mean that my colleague is also weak in data analysis. Yeah. You guided me very well in data analysis. You might find that you need to learn some things on data analysis from me as a student. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a learning process. Yeah. And nobody has a monopoly of information. So if we can give them that latitude of, as in, we are able to compliment them for the good thing they have done, and if they are criticizing, you also make the critique with some aspects of what? Respect. The student will feel that, yes, indeed, this is not an exercise in futility, I'm able to finish. Yeah. I can see the knowledge which is being improved in me. Yeah. But a point to note still on this slide, though I did not include, was the mastery of the university policies and the statutes. We as lecturers and the supervisors for that case, very few of us are bothered to know the policies within the university, especially on examination policies. Yeah. There should be a policy on supervision of students. To what extent do you know that policy? Yeah. Because issues will be coming out as you supervise the student. So how will you be able to guide and direct this student? Because you cannot guide this student just blindly like that. You must be making some reference. Yeah. And the reference here are the statutes and the policies. Yeah. To what extent we know the policies and the statutes? Yeah. Because the policies and the statutes are like what? They are like a manual to be used during what? The engagement during university activities. Supervision is a university activity. The directorate at times might prepare what? A guide on supervision. This is how you are supposed to organize your work. This is how we do it. And you find that the way it is done in this university is not the same way it's done in another university. But at the end of the day, you find that all the contents are included. But the way they have been presented can mark the difference. But everything is within the document. Yeah. So what are these policies on examination say? On supervision say? Yeah. For example, as student, you have been engaged with a student to a point whereby, irrespective of the nature of the work, you just want to believe that these students should proceed to the next level. I believe that you'll agree with me that it is the right for the student to be taught, it is the right of the student to be examined, and to receive results. What are you doing as a supervisor? It's like you're in class, you are teaching. Yeah. Once you have taught your students, some of them will pass, others will fail. Yeah. So you should not feel as though you are failed as a supervisor when you present a student examination and he fails in the defense. Yeah. It's like you teaching in a class and you get students passing and others will not. Failing. Yeah. So let us move away from that perception that I'm the one now being posted. No, you did that part. You did that part, and the directorate can attest to that because we have the progressive reports. Yeah, the progressive reports are there. You guided on the problem formulation, but the execution, not supervision, but defense. That is what normally reflected. You find at times that the work which is being reflected is not the work you're used to. You wonder, is this the same work I've been going through? Yeah. So you cannot say that, no, I'm very sorry for this. No, that is the student. You did your work. And the progressive reports are there to confirm that you did your supervision work correctly. And that's why the directorate insists that the progressive report must be, even if you are taking 7 years on what needs to be done at what time, during which stage of supervision. So if I stayed for 10 years and another student stays for 1 year or 2 years, I want to believe that our files will not be on the same side. Yeah, you might find that that one who has stayed for 10 years, the file is on this side, because of the progressive reports. Yeah. And as you release the student for examination now, so that he can come and defend the work, you have already been indicated by the progressive reports. Yeah. You mean that you cannot be able to calculate, to show the student how he can calculate the sample size. You are not the one being examined, it is the supervisor. Yeah. To answer that question, go back to the progressive reports. And in the progressive reports, I want to believe that you will have indicated how you guided the student on the sample size or sample size determination. Yeah. If it's data analysis, you'd have done that. Yeah. Because you have come to the era of performance contracting. Yeah. It should not be misconstrued that you are the one failing. It is the student failing. You have not failed. It is the student. So during, I think I had already discussed this, during other meetings, for the purposes of this slide, is that I had said that it's going to provide the basis for developing the student supervisor relationship and expectations. But the other meetings should therefore aim to, one, to set out a number of parameters. Those are the expectations, and clarify expectations. Help to establish a clear project proposal, and to identify student skills and gaps. Someone talked about taking a student back to a research class. Yes, these students have realized that from your initial interaction, as you develop the relationship, he's not adequately prepared in terms of data analysis. Take the student back to the class, because there's a unit of that. Even if it's an undergraduate class, recommend for the student to be, yeah. But what we normally do, we refer the student to somebody in town who does data analysis. Yeah. Is that the case? Yeah. Why should we refer our student to an entrepreneur outside there who does data analysis? I want to believe that that one is not professional and it's not ethical. We are all victims of this, I believe that. Yeah. And I think we should be able to run away from that. Because part of the supervision one is to make sure that the student knows how to analyze his work, his data, and interpret the same data. If he has not been taught in class, then recommend for the student to be taken back to class so that he can be taught that. Let us stop this idea of taking the student to the entrepreneurs outside there. We had a challenge with my colleague, Dr. Eric. We are supervising a student who had some challenges in data analysis and interpretation of the data. We could give direction on how to interpret the data. But when the student sends back the document, we find that the same has not been effective. We did this for about 3 rounds until the student had to accept at one point, say that no, but the person who is doing the analysis tells me that it should be analyzed like this. So you find that you are not the only person supervising this student. There's another one. There's another supervisor. And this other supervisor happens to be superior. Yeah, than you. Yeah. And that's why the student cannot run away from that. Yeah. So that is another challenge. Yeah. But if my colleague said, if we calculate this culture of making sure that at the initial stages of the supervision, we develop that kind of relationship, and we make the contractual form of agreement, then the student will not be able to discern, and will not be able to tell you that. I have another guy who has told me that that is analyzed like this. Yeah. You tell the student that, you know, our research design is basically qualitative, and he tells you that no, mine is quantitative. Then you ask the student, we have had cases here when students are presenting, and somebody, I think it was Dr. Araka, just a student, which design did you use? And the student stated confidently that use quantitative. Yeah. And the entire work everybody could have seen is what? Qualitative. Yeah. Then you wonder. Our colleague was very much embarrassed, but he could not say anything. So you can be sure that these are not the words of the student, these are words of another supervisor, son, and they have a relationship. Yeah. But I want to believe that if we make the relationship to be that, special, and to have those, to be guided by those core values, the student will be free, even to consult you and tell you that we were never taught research methods. Yeah, we were taught research methods, but I did not understand. Yes, kindly, which method are we going to use? Yeah, because at those initial stages, you can be able to determine, for example, whether this research is qualitative or quantitative, and you give direction to the student. Yeah, many times at the times we shy away from merging the two, qualitative and quantitative. Yeah, but many research and many of the researchers nowadays have gone to the mixed approach of qualitative and quantitative research design. But because of our inefficiencies in this, and we don't want to learn, I think we are giving a raw deal to the student. So I think we should be able, as we develop this relationship, we should be able even to go a step further and add more knowledge to the knowledge we have. Get to know at what point can we have a mixed research so that I can be able to advise my student. This research which I'm supervising at the moment, what kind of a research is it? You can fail to embarrass yourself in front of the student. At the end of the supervision, one of the sessions, you can just go back and make some references and get to understand the kind of work this student is requesting to be supervised. Yeah. You get to know the work much more better, so that you can be able to advise from a point of knowledge. Yeah. Because if you don't keep on replenishing the knowledge, you can be sure that at one point you'll be insufficient. Yeah. So it's always good to keep on adding more knowledge. There is an aspect which I thought that we'll have mentioned during the challenges, the supervisee challenges during supervision. That one of the culture. We have students who come from different cultural backgrounds. Yeah. You find that a man is not ready to be supervised. Yeah. How do you reprimand me in front of my colleagues as a lady? We have those cultures. Yeah. You should be able to make your student understand these things and demystify them at an early stage during what? The contract formulation. Yes. Do you accept me, Dr. Veronica, as your supervisor? Yes. Do you understand that I come from a different cultural background, not your cultural background? Yes. Will you agree that I will be your senior in this and I will give you direction? Yes. You agree on that, and the cultural issues will be in this. Yeah, but we fail to mention it. We fail to capture it. If we can be able to take some time, if you have been allocated a student today, take some time. You can even take 2 weeks to learn the student. Yeah. So that even the student will be learning that if I call Dr. So-and-so, he doesn't pick my calls, but he always sends back a text message. Yeah. If I call him at this time, he doesn't respond at all. But if I call him, especially for the colleagues who are working, because if you are supervising, for example, you are senior, and you want to believe that senior in what? Because you as a supervisor, you are the senior. Yeah. You are supervising him, and you are senior in the job place, but professional-wise, you are the senior. Yeah. And you tell him that tomorrow, very early in the morning, I need you in the lab so that we can run some trials there. Yeah. And he tells you that tomorrow, we have some visitors. Yeah. Tomorrow we have a council meeting. Tomorrow we have a dean's committee. Tomorrow we have ISO meeting. Yeah. And you now start exhibiting that authority. Because as a supervisor, you are supposed to have what? Authority. You need to be professional enough and be rigid, not to be rigid, but be flexible enough to understand that Yes, you are the senior, but this is also your what? You are senior. The judgment. And you have some duties to perform. Flexibility, very important. So when we realize that this person is not likely to be flexible with the nature of my work, because most of the PhD students are working, then I think it's always good, even as a supervisor, you request for a change of the supervision so that you don't inconvenience the student, because completion time will be an issue. If I'm always in meetings and I'm supposed to be supervising my student, Monday to Friday, I'm in a meeting. When will I get time to supervise my student? And I also want to progress as a scholar. I know that for me to be promoted, I should have published, I should have supervised this number of students. What will I do? I'll request the student that we meet over the weekend. And over the weekend is when we are compromising the relationship. Yeah. That is why, even if we are meeting over the weekend, can it be within the premises of the university? Can it be somewhere specifically whereby everybody can access you? We can see you to be doing a university what? Activity. And you can be sure that nobody will be buying tea there. Because we have met in a class, like this in an office. There's no tea. So you'll not say that the supervisor is stingy. This guy cannot buy you tea when you cannot have. Yeah. No tea. And you can be sure that you'll be able to do a lot of. So, what are the expectations of a good supervisor? What are the expectations of a good supervisor and supervisee relationship? What do we expect from that kind of relationship? What do we expect from that kind of relationship? Because in the relationship, I don't know whether you have encountered some relationship, supervisor-supervisee relationship, which have turned to marriage relationship. Yes. They have happened, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. And you wonder, at what point did we change the contract? We did not respect what? The social distance. Yeah. If the contract talks of what? 2 meters, then it should be 2 meters. If the contract talks of meeting in the office at a particular time, then it should be like that. That's right. Yeah. So to avoid the discussion, let me summarize it for you, that a good supervision will aim at the following. One, you should be able to identify the skills and gaps in the research work that you're doing with the student at an early stage. Yeah? We are supervisors who doesn't understand the problem statement of the researcher at hand. Yeah. Is it possible, and I want to believe that it's possible, to recite a work which you are supervising? Somebody talks of a particular work which you are supervising, and you're able to state the objectives of that work, and even the research design you are using. Why will you be able to do that? Because you have read through the work. You'll be able to get to know the student, to identify the skills of the student. You'll be able to see the gaps which can be added on that. And again, you're also able to realize that this student needs some kind of a welfare. Because everybody needs to be considered in a fair way. Because welfare is actually in the absence of suffering. Yeah. So if you are supervising a student, the supervisee that is, and you are supposed to meet today, and the student tells you that she's a lady, that I'm sorry, Daktari, I'll not be able to make it. Today in the morning when I went up, my maid told me that she was leaving. And you know how that's not. So I'm sorry, I'll not be able to make it. That is a welfare we should be able to understand. So it should not be a big issue. And that's why during the early stages of the contractual formulation, you should be able to agree on something. Flexibility. Yeah. Don't say that you are calling me in the morning when you know that I've already arrived at the office where they're supposed to meet. And I've traveled all the way. I've traveled all the way from Nakuru, for example, to come and meet you where we are supposed to meet in the office. And you tell me that it's not possible. You should be able to understand the student. A good supervisor will be mindful of the students or the supervisor's academic what? Welfare. The confidence of the student. The confidence of the student. A good supervisor is that that supervisor or senior colleague who will be able to uplift the confidence of the student. Not an issue whereby the student wants to articulate an issue of importance in the research, like he wants to make a clarification and you dismiss the student when in your design. And you listen to what I'm saying. We are fond of making these statements. It's good to build the confidence of the student. How do we build the confidence of the student? By complimenting. Yeah, give them an opportunity even to address you. Yeah. Give the student an opportunity to even be the supervisor. Suppose I'm the supervisor, you can see. What can you say about what I've already told you? These are my comments on this. Let us reverse the role. Suppose I'm not the supervisor, the student, and you are the supervisor. What will be your comment on that statement, which I've already included in the problem statement? I want to believe that the student will gather the courage and will be able to see the gap in that, and will be able to appreciate the criticism, and the confidence will grow. Unlike in a scenario where you do it negative. Yes, yeah. So again, a good supervisor is that one who will build trust. Yeah. This relationship should be able to have kind of a trust. Yeah. That if we meet there, I know I'm not going to buy tea. If we meet in the office, I know my supervisor is time conscious. If we are to meet at 9, I know it will be that 9. Trust. If I tell this issue to my supervisor, which is affecting me, I know that will be between me and my supervisor. Not an issue whereby the student or you are the supervisor shares some very confidential information, and the other day you are sharing with your colleagues. Yeah, you know that may tell me that she was divorced. Yeah. Can you imagine? No wonder she behaves the way she's behaving. Yeah. I don't like supervising science students. Yeah, you know, people who have separated have issues and they can carry their issues into the supervision. You know, you are moving away from the main law. Yeah. Should the student learn what you have told your colleague, and the student had told you that in confidence? I want to believe that the student will not trust you. Yeah, and it will be an issue. However much you guide, you not be seeing you as that role model. I'm trying to avoid the word role model at the end. Yeah. So you should be able to exhibit that kind of trust. Again, raising student morale and confidence. Yeah, you can do that in many ways, and that's synonymous with confidence of the student. And again, a good supervisor or supervision will help the student to complete the course. Kindly, can you tell me the problems? Yes, you seem to be stagnating. Yes, you know, I have a challenge of school. I don't know what to do. Because you get students who want to submit their work, but it's a requirement for them to have clear what? School fee. Yes. So how do you help that student complete the work? Advise the student. Where do you come from? Do you know one of the functions of the CPF is what? Yes, we have students. Have you applied for CDF? Have you seen the dean of students? In the university, we have some bursaries. Have you shared this with the dean of students? Have you shared this with the directorate? Do you know that we have some banks which can give you what? A loan. Have you contacted the L? Even though you have gotten another help and you have not paid, are you aware that you can still get another one? By so doing, you will be able to complete the course. Yeah. The content of my presentation will be basically on 4, not 4, but 5 areas. One of them is what my colleague covered, that is on the challenges faced by both parties and the attributes and features of a good supervision, communication for effective supervision, and functions of good and effective supervision. And at the end of the presentation, I want to believe that we'll have gotten something and we'll be able to evaluate ourselves. What have we been doing? So what are the challenges faced by both parties during supervision? We have brainstormed on that. We had a group discussion here. My colleague took us through the discussion. We saw them. And we brainstormed on them. But basically, some of these challenges, I summarized them. One of them will be on poor completion rate, which is a concern. It is a concern to the supervisor that if students are not completing the course within the stipulated time, if that is not a concern to you, then you are a scientist. You are a scientist. Yeah. If you are not concerned that your student is not completing within the stipulated time, then I believe that you have other issues, and this is the wrong profession. Yeah. So completion rate is an issue for the student supervising and for the supervisor assessment. Yeah. And that now will bring us down to the role of each. Yes, completion is poor and it's an issue of concern. It's a challenge, it's a problem. So if it is a challenge, you as my student, what is your role in this? Why is it that you have not been able to complete? What is your role in this? Because you'll find that the student might have participated in the poor completion. Yeah. Then if the problem is on the supervisee or the student, then you'll be able to guide. Yeah. The problem is on you. Yes. The problem is not mine. Yeah. The problem is on the supervisor. The supervisor is not available. You take the document to the supervisor, tells you that no. You send a soft copy, and the supervisor insists that you should send what? An hard copy. It happens. Yes. I don't work with soft copies. I work with hard copies. Yes. Can you bring the hard copy in Dan's hotel? Yeah. I'll be there at 6. Yeah. Then you know that you are going to delay. Yeah? And you'll have the excuse of the jam. That then you get at 7. And then somebody who is married. No. This is somebody's husband. What will you be discussing at 7? Huh? The relationship will be compromised. So what is your role as a supervisor? And what is your role as the supervisor? Once we understand our roles, both of us, I want to believe that the completion rate is a challenge. It will no longer be a challenge. We'll have mitigated the challenge. Yeah. Again, there is also need for supervision. Supervision. A challenge on poor completion can be attributed to the supervision as a developmental process. Yeah. How is supervision being a developmental process? How will it lead to poor completion rate? Some of the stages, because we have said that it's a developmental process. A process has stages, and one stage leads to another. Suppose we jump one of the stages. we are not likely to get the right product, end product. Yeah. So all the processes must be followed. Yeah. So if we know that we are not following the laid down developmental processes of the supervision, then we can be sure that we are likely to have what? A problem of completion. This student is not likely to complete an estimated time. And that is why, that is where, as a supervisor, you should be able to negate that particular problem should you encounter. Tell the student, yes, do you know that we jumped a step? In what? Like, for example, in data processing, before you analyze the data, what are you supposed to do? You code the data. But someone tells you that he has analyzed, but he did not tell you that how he went to analysis. He just said that I went from the field to analysis. There is a step there in data management. Yeah. How did you manage your data before you get the results? Yeah. There is a step you jumped there. Can we go back? Because if you don't retrace the lost step in the process, then you are not likely to have the right one, to make the right steps as you move forward. Because the next step will be the results and the interpretation of them. And here's an issue of lack of what? Inefficiency in data management. You did not manage your data properly. And you want to proceed to analysis. And from analysis, you know you are likely to go to what? Presentation of the results, interpretation, and the rest. Yeah. So it's always important to retrace the lost step so that you can be able to adhere to the supervision, developmental process. And once we move like that, this one is only possible if you are in constant touch with your student. If you are in contact with your student, you'll be able to realize that. Not a situation whereby you have gone from the field and now the student brings you the results which have already been analyzed, discussed. Can you manage the data together? Yeah. Yeah. We have the data, yes. Can we manage the data first before we analyze the data? Yeah. And you'll avoid the student a lot of problems as you move forward. Because as you interpret the data, you might be asking the student some questions which he might not be able to answer. And that might be the cause of the conflict between you and the student. Something which you could have guided. And the student can even give up at that particular point and disappear. Yeah, so that you can have the graphs which we had. Yes. We had one who could not be traced. Menyaliena 2022 na yeah. Yes. Why? The problem can be traced to the supervisor. Because if we are together at each and every step, then the student, guided by the contractual agreement, will not run away from that. He'll be able to follow your direction the way you are. I want to see the supervisor as a leader, actually, not as a boss. Though we have given the definition of a supervisor, but I want to see him as a leader, not as a manager, because a leader will give direction. Yeah, this is the direction I want us to take. Yes, and not during direction, as we give direction, somebody can question. Why did we use this there? Why are we using this route and not this? Yeah, as a leader, you give reason for that. We are using this because this is a shortcut. We are using this because this is the right route. A leader will do that, but a manager will not do that. Yeah. So as a supervisor, let us actually endeavor to be the leaders. Leaders, why? Because we are senior. Senior is someone who is ahead. Yeah. So continuation of the challenges. Someone talked about your problems with the institution, administrative and the remuneration. You are experiencing some administrative constraints within the university. And you want to carry the same problems to the student. Yeah. No, I'm not going to supervise you. We are not meeting tomorrow. You know, I've not been paid my supervision fee. You know, this month they have not been paid. So how can I come? Well, they are not going to meet. Yes. Those are actually classified information between us and our employees. Yeah. And they can be dealt administratively. So you talking about administrative issues with your student or with your supervisor will not add value to the supervision process, but will end up derailing the student, and the student will not be able to complete at the stipulated time. For remuneration, we have had colleagues who talk about what? You know, this supervision fee is not enough, cannot be quantified to the amount of time, money I've invested. Yeah? The time we have been spending, I spent with you about 2 hours in what? 2 hours in a day. The 2 hours in a day, if you quantify them, I'm likely to be getting 2,000 shillings, for example, 2,000 shillings in a day. And I've stayed with you for 5 years. Quantify that, you the purpose. And I will only be paid 20,000 for your supervision. You know, you need to understand, at times when I don't come, just understand that I'm poorly paid. I think these are some of the challenges we should actually not be portrayed as challenges, because we know how we can mitigate on them. We should never talk about them, because these are issues which can be sorted out through the right channel. One, I knew that I will be paid 20,000 shillings for this supervision. Why will I now go back and complain to the student that I will be paid 20,000 shillings, and that is very little? And I knew that picking this student for supervision at the end of the exercise, I'll be paid what? 20,000 shillings. Then later, in the supervision process, I start complaining to the student that I'm being what? Underpaid. I think that is an issue which can lead to poor completion rate, because we'll be derailing the student, because as we engage the student with the negative talk, then you can be sure that, as in, if you were to do constructive supervision, on that day it will not happen. Yeah. And that is when the student at times will tell you that, Doctor, can I buy you lunch? Can I buy you lunch? Yes. Because you have already said that you don't have money. Yes. Will you decline? And you'll find that M-Pesa has already landed. You just hear a message. Yeah. Then you start complaining. You know you're not supposed to send money, and you don't want to send back. Yeah? Why not send back and start back complaining? Yeah. The M-Pesas arrive and you now start complaining to the student. You should not have sent me the money. This is my work. Yeah, as a supervisor, I'm paid by the university. You're not supposed to pay me. But anyway. Why not reverse the lesson? Reverse the investment. Because if you reverse the investment, then you make your argument valid. Yeah. And the student will never repeat that. Yeah. But you encourage the behavior. Yeah. Yeah. I believe you have encountered such challenges. Yes. Yeah. Especially when you meet on the text, the student will want to do what? To put up the bill. Yeah. There's nothing for free. He has paid for your lunch, for your tea. So what does he expect from you? Favoritism. Yes. Favoritism. And you have actually compromised on the very important aspect of the university, the core values. Yes. And you have deviated from your normal agreed what? Contractual agreement. Yeah. Because in your agreement, you did not agree somewhere that the student will be buying tea or will be M-Pesa in you. Yeah. And that might lead to what? poor quality. The quality of the supervision will be compromised. And once an M-Pesa has landed, the student will move from there to where? To here. Yes. He will gain another confidence from nowhere. Yeah, because he has seen that, oh, Kumbi, I'm the boss. Yeah. Because you will know money has got some strength, kind of strength. And even money can give you some confidence. Yes. Because you have money and you think that you can even be able to dictate the supervisor and tell the supervisor that, yeah, because you move from there without being told to move, and the supervisor will not complain. How will you complain when you have the M-Pesa? The M-Pesa has already landed. The student now will now get the confidence to move from there to here. And whatever you are saying, the student will tell you kindly, can you effect that in the document? Yes. Can you do it? Yeah. And you lack words. These are things which normally happen. You lack words, and you'll find yourself doing it. Yeah. Whose work will it be? To be your work, to not be the student's work. Yeah. Quality will have been compromised, and that's why, as panelists, we are always, it's always very easy for us to see or to divorce the work being presented and the student himself. We are able to say that this work does not reflect you. Yes. Somebody must have done this work. Yes. Yeah. Because whatever I'm doing, the corrections I'm making, the student has not internalized. It is a concept. The student has not understood the concept. Yeah. I tell the student to change the conceptual framework, and he tells me that he cannot understand how to go about the variables. I do, or I make the framework for the student. And because the M-Pesa has already landed, what will I do? Tell do it. By doing presentation, what will happen? The student will not be able to explain the direction of the variable. Yeah. And we'll be able to see that as panelists. And because of the nature of the panelists might actually divorce that back from the student, and the student might be taken back to the field. And that might lead to what? For competition. Yeah. But if we had defined our relationship at an early stage, agreed on the contractual as a framework on what to be done, I want to believe that it will be very clear that I cannot do this. Remember that I am the supervisor and you are the student. This degree will be written in your name. It will not come with my name. So can you do it? Yeah. And the student will understand. So even if we are straining, kindly, let us avoid that temptation. The temptation is always real. Yes. It's always there. So regular meetings between the supervisor and the supervisee can also iron out these challenges and help the student complete on the stipulated time and lack of clarity of goals and objectives. That's why I said that as a supervisor, you should understand the work. We have seen supervisors who knows the work more than the student. Yeah. So that you can be able to tell the student if he goes to that, no, can you get to your document and you're in your house without the document? Open your document and go to page 16. Yeah. I was with Dr. Eric and he told the student that this is what we told you some time back. Can you go to document 2 and straight away go down to page 18 and you note the correction which we had stated at that particular time. Yeah. You find that the student and the final the lecturer and the commission accept all the changes. Yes. Yes. Never did anything. Yeah. And I think that's why, again, we should not be lost in it, not be lost in our mind that where we are coming from, we have been supervised by the kind of the old school in board, supervisors, who could not accept a soft copy. And that is when we add quality one. Because if you insist on an hard copy, even if you have sent a soft copy, you make sure that you see an hard copy. You'll be able to trace. Can I get the hard copy? Yes. Let's go to page 16. This is the correction this is the comment I made. Where's the new document? This is the new document. Can I see, have you effected that correction? Yes. Okay, T, can we move to the next page? That can be very easy. Yeah. But many times are the times we normally agree on the soft copy. And in the soft copy, there's no way, because of our laxity, we can be able to run the two documents at the same time, to be able to compare the tract changes. Yeah. And that's why a student will tell you that the document, some students have even confessed that the first document which I presented to my supervisor is the same document I printed, the final document. So in between here, what we have been doing, yeah, he has been telling you for a right. Yes. But if you insist on the two documents, yes, bring the soft, but again the art must be there. Can I see these changes? It will be very easy for you to see where the trick is. Because the students, because it has been a relationship, they will have learned you. If you are lazy, they will have known that you are what? Lazy. Yes. If you are true, they will have known that it is only so and so who can track my changes. I will only be thorough with Dr. So and so's correction. So yeah. Because it's always a challenge to combine the two corrections. Yeah. If we have comments from both supervisors, as a student, it is the role of the student to harmonize the two and to make sure that the two supervisors come to a common what? Agreement. This is the comment, and this is the other comment from the other supervisor. Bring in a neutral comment which will accommodate both of them, by not going with one supervisor. Because we have L students who are prescribed to one supervisor than the other. And all of them are professionals. Then, as a supervisor, you avoid problems with your body, you just keep quiet. And that's why some of you will say, we like just inquire from the student. Daktari alisema nini? Alisema nifanye hii na hii na hii. Na umefanya hivi? Nimefanya. Continue. Then what is your role in that situation? It has happened. Yeah. Your input must be seen. Yeah. And the student must, because it's part of the process. Harmonizing those two comments if they are two supervisors, it's the responsibility of the student. Yeah. And because that is the learning, and that is the mastery of what? The concept. Yeah. Because if I'm able to merge these two comments and come up with a neutral comment which can accommodate my two supervisors, then I can say that learning is taking place and supervision indeed is taking place. Yeah. But if I move with one set of corrections from one supervisor and the other supervisor is comfortable with that, then I want to believe that one of the supervisors will be robbing the student of the knowledge. Yeah. Because you are supposed to impart knowledge which you are not imparting to this student. You are supposed to be mentoring the student in terms of research, and you are not doing it. You have left the responsibility to your colleague. Yes. So I think it's an area which we need to look at. Again, we also have issues of lack of ethics and professionalism. We meet, and wherever we have met, I'm taking a beer. Yeah. I'm taking a beer, and there we are. Yeah. Or if I'm a smoker, I'm smoking, and at the same time, we are being on. Yeah. And you find that there are some people who are allergic to something. Someone might be allergic to the smoke. Yeah. And we are not mindful about the welfare of the student. So I believe that there are some ethics and some professionalism, mannerism, which we ought to hold close to our heart. Because that student cannot say that, indeed, this is my mentor. Indeed, this is my role model, academic-wise. This is my senior. No. I don't have a senior who smokes like that. I don't have a senior who does not respect me the way I am. Yeah. So lack of ethics and professionalism. And this is on both sides. We are meeting and we are doing in this room in my office, and as a supervisor, you come with a miniskirt. And as spaghetti, young brothers will fight as spaghetti. You have a dress made of spaghetti. Yeah. So what will happen? You can be sure that the supervisor will not be himself. Yeah. You'll have affected the concentration of the supervisor. And if it's to do something to do with critiquing, you can be sure that the critique will not be as constructive as it should have been. Yeah. Because he has been distracted. Stubbornness and rudeness of the supervisor. We have experienced this. Yes. Where a student tells you that, no, you must sign this document. Yes, I'm done with it. You either sign it or I take it the way it is. Yeah. I don't know whether you have encountered such students. Yes. Yeah. Can you sign it? No. That is how it's supposed to be. I'm not going to change it. Yes. I'm worked on this correction several times. I'm not going to change it. You must be lucky if you have not encountered such students. And these are the students specifically who are employed. Yeah. And they see you as what? As though you are just bringing us some issues, so that you can seek some favorism from them, money-wise. Yeah. So stubbornness and rudeness. The contractual agreement will be able to sort that. Because at the beginning, you had an engagement. The engagement on how to proceed. That relationship must be maintained. The other attribute, the other one is on the attributes of the good supervisor. As a supervisor, you are supposed to be a mentor. As a supervisor, you are supposed to be a mentor, and you know who is a mentor. Yeah, you are supposed to be a mentor. Whatever you do, you must know that somebody is watching you. You know? Because like with the clinicians, they guard their what? They want to guard their standards, their quality of service. Who is guarding this quality of service? It is a supervisor in the clinician setup. Yeah. He's guarding the profession so that the junior fella does not develop some bad mannerisms. Yeah. Like for the laboratory technologies, somebody can just say that, as in, with this test, I've just seen that this is a man who is heavily pregnant, a lady for that case. And the same lady is requesting for pregnancy test. Why should I bother to carry out the test? And it is obvious. Yeah. What is the motivation? You're already pregnant and you want to be confirmed that you are pregnant. Yeah. Then the technologies will just watch. Yeah. Instead of doing the test, just not something like that. Pregnancy test, positive. Yes. Yeah. Who told you that that sample belonged to the man? Assuming that the urine sample was from the daughter. Or from another colleague. We have had such instances, and for you, for the clinicians, that's why a senior professional member must be there to guard on the quality. Tell the junior member that this is the direction to take. You are not supposed to do this, this is how it's supposed to conduct this. Irrespective of the time, if you are doing something like cross-matching of blood, if you are doing cross-match, no. If it's 6-tube technique, go with the 6-tube technique. Stop going with what? The 2-tube technique. Yeah. Let us go through the long way. Because we have some antibodies which might come from nowhere. Yeah. If you go with the 2-tube technique, you are not likely to get what? Those antibodies. And those antibodies are the ones which might cause what? The unwanted reaction. You find that we have what? Rejection. Transfusion rejection. Why? Because you went with the 2-tube technique instead of what? The right procedure. Mentorship. Trust and leadership and authority, relationship, knowledge of the subject. You should be knowledgeable on the subject. That's why we say that you should be able to decline supervision, which we are insufficient in knowledge, so that we can be able to offer quality supervision. And again, relevant of skills utilization. Don't shy away from sharing some skills which you want to believe that you are unique in them. Yeah. If as a supervisor, you are knowledgeable in data analysis, don't say that I cannot take this student for some tutorial. I cannot conduct some tutorial with this student. Yeah. Make sure that this student enjoys the benefit of you being the supervisor. Because we have said that we are going to invite the student for some tutorial. Tell the student that tomorrow we are not going to have a normal supervision. Tomorrow we are going to have a class. And I'm going to teach you on how to analyze data. Yes. I'm going to teach you on how to make interpretation of the data which you might get. I'm going to teach you on the types of what? Research methods. Let the student enjoy the skills. Don't say that, no, somebody else is paid to do this. Mine is just supervision. If he doesn't know, you can let the student enjoy. Openness and scholarly humility and relevance. Somebody said that as you progress, you become more what? Yeah. It's very easy for you to slap a professor. Yeah. But you cannot slap an undergraduate. Yes. Yes. Because over time, the person has learned to be what? To be humble. Yeah. So if the student sees the humbleness in you, then he'll be able to come down to your level and you'll be able to demystify your title. And the student will be able to reason with you. Because some students at times will hold back. They have a solution to a problem which you are brainstorming during the supervision, but because they see you as that person who is superior, and because of lack of their humility, they'll not be able to tell you. Yeah? But if you are that humble, they'll be able to unlock a problem. Yeah? They'll be able to unlock a problem, and you find that you're also learning from the student because of their humility. And this is something the student will carry on in the profession. Professional critique. Professionalism is a critical requirement. Respect and recognition of the supervisee. Effective communication is the next one. We have some supervisors who doesn't communicate with their supervisor, with their students. Don't call me, text me. Don't call me, don't text me. Just leave a note in my office. Yeah. If we don't have that communication, how will we be able to brainstorm on the problem? Because we have a relationship. Just visualize the problem, a situation in the house, whereby we are not communicating as spouses. And it happens. Yeah. Nasikia mtoto anakuja na kuambia mama amesema anataka pesa ya hiyo. Alafu naambia nenda mwambie. Mtoto anarudi anakuambia dada amesema hakuna. Dada anarudi anasema mwambie hata yeye anafanya kazi. Hata yeye akupatie pesa. And it's something very easy. Why not just call your spouse and tell the spouse that no, you know I'm servicing alone. Yes. Whatever you are demanding is not possible. Yes. You know we have not been paid until you have been paid. Why don't you put up these bills? Why do you want to embarrass me in the supermarket? Yeah. Put up the bills, you know. My status at the moment. Yeah. Communication. Let the student be open with you. And you'll be able to learn a lot from the student. Be open to the student, and the student will learn a lot from you. And this type of communication should be timely. If, for example, you are toward the end of your supervision, you should be able to tell the student on time. Kindly, do you know wherever we are right now, you are supposed to be making an intent to submit. Yes. Kindly organize and write an intent to submit. Because within these 2 months, you should have submitted. So write an intent to submit. Not a scenario where we supervise until the tail end. And once we are done with the supervision, is now when you tell the student, now, can you now submit your work? And the student submits the work, and you should have notified us that you want to submit your work. In our procedures, you are supposed to write an intent of submission. Effective communication. How will you be an effective communicator as a supervisor on that point? If you have learned the policies and the statutes of the university, specifically the policies, because that is a step towards what? Completion of the supervision work. One is in effective communication is intellectual support, clarifying expectations, cure of ideological disagreements, rights to obligations of both. And I believe those are self-explanatory. Because if you don't clarify some expectation, the student, or you expected to meet the student today, it is an expectation. Or you expect the student by the end of this month to have analyzed the data. Make the clarification, communicate, and say that towards the end of this month, I'll be presenting you chapter 4 on results. Please. Make it be known so that the supervisor can be able to do all, to go through the document, look at the methodology, and be able to get prepared. Because there's no way you can go to results without coming from methodology. The lecturer needs, not the lecturer, but the supervisor needs to be prepared in a way. The supervisee also needs to be prepared. Don't ambush the student. That tomorrow we are supposed to have departmental defense. Tomorrow we are supposed to have a school defense. Prepare the student. Do you know that at the end of this month, the department has scheduled some defense, some oral defense? Yeah? Irrespective of the level of our supervision, we are supposed to present what we have. Are you prepared? No, I'm not prepared. Now that we have 30 days to go, can you prepare so that you can present the part which we have already covered? Timely feedback and clarification of expectations.
Before you move on communication, away from communication. Why I'm asking you this is where we are coming from, we have supervisors.
Yes.
When you want to call them, you write down statements on paper. Yes. Because you are so afraid that this guy is going to bombard you with very negative information. Like, why are you calling me at this particular time? So how do we demystify our work without compromising standards? When the students call,
yes,
some of them even have a habit of not picking a call from a student. So how do we handle that?
Contractual agreement. The first meeting. The first meeting, we should be able to lay down the do's and don'ts. The relationship itself. Assuming, as in you meet a friend today, and you fail to communicate within a span of 1 month. Or suppose I failed to come to not to Laikipia, but to Kisii University for 2 years. The next time I'll be coming here, I need to introduce myself. Why? Communication breakdown. So the relationship was not nurtured. We need to nurture the relationship. How do we nurture the relationship of the supervisor and the supervisor? You should not be calling always when you have a supervision problem. One, we might have issues whereby students have been recalled back to tell a unit, which maybe the department thinks that it's an important unit. Or there's a conference which postgraduate students need to attend. I want to believe that because of the nature of our relationship with the student, you'll not feel any problem calling the student. Hello, so and so. Are you aware that we have this conference going on in Igato, in Laikipia, in Maseno? Why don't you just go there and attend? It may be you don't have anything to present. They're very important. Yes. The student at times can call you. Like, what happened? You know, I'm stuck. Yeah. My reagents have been exhausted, and I'm lacking one important reagent. I don't know where to get it. I've looked throughout all the suppliers, but I cannot get it. Kindly, do you know of a supplier who can supply me with that reagent? Yes. If you are in touch like that, I want to believe that at no point will we have communication breakdown. And if you call me at night, you'll have known from the very beginning that work ethics, the ones who agreed at the very beginning, that you don't call me. I'm somebody's wife and married. You're also married, because you might be dealing with a mature student. Why call me at 8? What can I offer at 8? Because at 8, you are a wife to somebody. You are not the supervisor. Yes. Or at 8, I'm an husband to somebody. Yes. You might be calling me and I'm in the middle of my prayers. I'm communicating. And when I fail to pick your phone, it becomes an issue. That should not be an issue. Yeah. So we just treat that as a mystical.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But courtesy demands that we call back because of the relationship. And we are calling at the right time. Tomorrow at 8 in the morning, hello? What happened? I saw you a mystical. Even if it was not a mystical, just say tomorrow, yes, hello? I saw a mystical yesterday. What was the issue? Yes. Yeah. If the same behavior continues, because that is actually an inappropriate behavior, yeah, then you can reprimand the student. Because you have the power. You just call the supervisor or the student, tell the student, you know, I don't like this idea of you calling me at night. If there's anything, can you call me between 8 and 5? Yes. Between 5, kindly, let us postpone the issue, however burning it is. Till? Yes. But because the student again understands your flexibility during the contractual stage, the first meeting, the student might also call you at night. Yeah, depending on the nature of the issue, because he knows the flexibility of this person. If the student knows that this person is not flexible, then they don't do that. Because you can find that it's an issue which cannot require waiting. It's the issue requires immediate response. Like the student is analyzing the data and the student is stuck somewhere. Yeah, and he needs to confirm something. And you know, as a supervisor, what this student is doing right now. I know the student is analyzing the data, is using a particular software, the software which I taught the same student. Yeah. And maybe you want to inquire on something, a step, which maybe you might have missed, so that you can continue. Yeah. A good student will be able to follow with a text. Yes. Not calling, but a text. Then as a supervisor, you'll be able to interpret the content of the text and qualify it for a response or no response. Yeah. So communication is very important, because if that one is not timely, then the student will be stuck the whole night. And tomorrow maybe you expected some progress. The student will not have progressed because you did not provide a timely response. So next is
when it comes to communication, I really want to share my experience. It is time that us as supervisors change our mindset from that aspect of us being gods of some kind to being fellow human beings to our own students. You have the roadmap, you have the agreement with you, the calling hours, but there are those off issues that you may have to attend to the students. Sometimes it may happen that you're outside the country and you may not call, or the student may not call you during the day. The fact that you are outside the country does not mean that your supervision responsibilities stop. So you must define a mechanism of ensuring that you still remain in contact with your students, even when the time durations vary from where you are in the Kenyan situation. So it is all a matter of learning to accommodate one another. And now with technology, communication has even been made easier. Do we have WhatsApp groups for the students that we are supervising? Because that's what I do. I have over 15 of them. and I have one WhatsApp group for all of them. So that whenever there is something to share, I just post it. And I don't have to do 10 emails or 15 emails. Yes, so by the click of a button, you communicate to the entire team and it makes your work very easy. So the technology is here with us, let's embrace it.
That one reminds me of our colleagues who might have gone on return. Once you go on retirement and you are supervising a student, what normally happens? Do you leave your student like that? Huh? Do you leave the student like that? Because again now, as in, you have retired, so you forget everything. A contract ought to be honored. Yes. It should not be lost to your mind that you have a contract with a student. You have a contract with a student. So irrespective of your current status, you have gone on retirement, you have maybe changed your employer. It should be borne to your mind that you have what? A contract. And the work ethics and the professionalism will drive you to that. Yes. That contract will disturb you. So there's no way you can run away from the student. Yeah. So you must take the student through the process till the last stage. So what are the functions of a good and you have not yet there? What are the functions of a good and effective supervision? Positive criticism. That one we should not fear. Even though these criticism might be misconstrued, the recipient might see it as a negative criticism. Yeah, but stick to your criticism, but kindly let the recipient, who is the supervisor, understand it. Understand why you are critiquing. And again, we should also critique in a more respectable manner without demeaning the recipient. Yeah. We should be able to critique them with some kind of decorum and respect so that they can be able to receive it positively. But there's a way you can portray it and the supervisor sees it as negative criticism. Again, another function of an effective supervision is that it will make the student to feel welcome, maintains an effective relationship and regular and timely meetings, and helps students to stay on track. Effective supervision cannot be complete without effective communication. So if we have an effective communication, then we want to believe that the supervision will also be what? Effective. And if all those things are in order, then we want to believe that the student will be able to stay on track. Because if there's an issue, the issue was brought up, it's no longer a problem, it has already been solved. Courtesy of effective communication, which has now led to what? Effective supervision. Regular meetings, regular and timely meetings, this one can be defined because these are things we normally agree during the contractual, as in the initial meetings, the initial encounter when we are developing the relationship. How frequent will we be meeting and where will we be meeting? Yes. But I wonder, how will you maintain an effective relationship? How will you maintain an effective relationship? Because effective might sound different. Because if you say this is an effective relationship, there must be parameters under which you are measuring the relationship so that you can qualify it to be effective. To me, as a supervisor, I can say that I am effective. I'm effectively supervising this student. But on the side of the supervisee, it might be seen the other way around. Yeah. So how do we maintain an effective relationship? Yeah. That one you'll be able to see, or you'll be able to note as you communicate. Yes, effective communication. As you communicate, you'll find that, oh, there's somewhere I've erred. There's something which is wrong. Our relationship is not, the tone of my supervisee is not the tone I'm used to. There must be something wrong. Yeah. The way my student or my supervisee has presented himself or herself today, it's not the right one. It's not the way I know. It's not the way I know. So there must be what? A problem. And that is now when you go back to the tenets of your relationship and you review what could have been the problem. Yeah. So if the supervision is going to be effective, then the relationship must also be what? Effective. Yeah. How do you feel the student welcome? How do you feel them, make them feel welcome? When they give their feedback. Because it's a learning process, isn't it? Yeah. You give your idea, it's a learning process. You give them your thinking, and you expect them to reason out and also give their feedback, isn't it? Yeah. So if you have that kind of interaction, then the student will feel very much welcomed and they will feel part of the process and they will own the process. And when you interrogate the student on a particular issue concerning the work, the student will be very much happy to give you the right response. Why? Because it's part of the process. The student feels what? Welcome. There are students who will also supervise you, who will meet you for a session. And in the first 2 minutes, they are wondering when the session will be over. Yeah, because it's a monologue, one way. Yeah, it should not be one way. Yeah? Let the student own the process. Let the supervisee own the process. Yeah. Yeah. Let it be give and take. Yeah. And the student will feel welcome because one, at the end of it all, this is the work of the student. Yeah, this is the work of the student. And if he is not welcomed in his own work, then he's likely to disown the work. Yes. And again, I had some additional information on how to maintain a good supervision and the bad mannerism. Because we have some inappropriate supervisory behaviors. Yes. And given a chance here, we can be able to set them. Because I know myself and I know the manners which I have when I'm a student. And I can be able to say whether it's good or bad. Yes. So those are inappropriate behaviors, supervisory behaviors. And again, it's also good to maintain a good supervision. So how do we maintain a good supervision and how do we deal about with these inappropriate supervisory behaviors? And what are they? Good supervision. How do we maintain it? Regular and timely meetings. Regular and timely meetings, and this will enhance supervisee what? Relationship. Akipotea, tafuta yeye. Yes. A student has not communicated for 1 week, and you know that the student is in the field, tafuta yeye. Sasa, regular and timely meetings. Regular and timely meetings. The other one is on timely and effective feedback. You don't sleep with the information. A case in mind is that one of a text. And who text at night, don't wait in the morning because it was urgent, text it back. Yeah, even if you don't want to call. But again, there are those ungodly hours in them. Yes. Respect the supervisee and the supervisee who happens to be the customer. Professionalism and the work ethics, it's an attribute of a good supervision. Ensure readiness for session. We have had supervisors who are not conversant with the topic being supervised. Kama daktari hapa, she has 15 students. And one of them requests that they have a meeting today. Na akikutana anamuuliza, by the way, what is your topic? Can you remind me of your topic? That might mean that the child was not prepared for what? For that particular session. So you need to be prepared. If you are meeting with this student, can you go through the work? so that you can know the area where you can be able to emphasize and offer the right direction. Yeah. So readiness of the session, and again, tolerance of the skills. The student might, or the supervisor, might appear knowledgeable than you are, tolerate the student. Yeah. There are others who are highly talkative. You are advising, and at the same time, the student is also doing what? Advising. What do you? You must know how to tolerate such. And I believe because it's a relationship, you'll be able to find out who you're not to tolerate. The mannerism now. Which are these inappropriate supervisory behavior? Intolerance of behavior, imposing personal agenda. This is how it's supposed to be done. Yes, lazima ufanye hivi. Yeah. During my MSc, I encountered this problem with my supervisor, where he was imposing his personal agenda. Because we were using a particular technique. Because I was working, I was collaborating with him in his work. Told me that this is the procedure I said that we should use. Yeah. And that is the same procedure is used. But because I want to believe that he was not prepared for the session, he was not briefed of that procedure. So he ended up misguiding me and he told me that, no. This is not the procedure I've been telling you. And I've told you this time and again. Yes. The session came to an end. Yeah, the session came to an end. Yeah. The procedure was on ATP analysis. I was analyzing ATP analysis using a direct method. And he was insisting on indirect method. And the procedures he had given me, we are clearly stated that it was what I was saying, direct method. Yeah. So the session end to end, because I insisted that this is the procedure, and he also insisted that whatever he was saying was what? Yes. And he told me that, can you go back and organize your work? Yes. And when you are ready, you come back. And you will not continue this way. Yes, you are ready to go. And we parted ways. Yeah. But when I left, after 2 days, I called him because of the relationship. Apart from that, we had a relationship. I called him because I knew how he behaved. So I called him and I told him that, do you know what? The guy, whatever you are talking about, can you check? There's a document I've sent you so that you can give me the way forward or back. Yeah? Oh, yes, who made the way you were saying? But anyway, they are the same. Yes. It's the way you are saying. So I re-engineered the relationship because the relationship was broken in a way, and we continued again. Yeah. So imposing personal agenda is an inappropriate behavior. Supervisors lack of motivation, because motivation is different. You must know the motivation of this student to undertake that particular research. Because some of them, motivation might be the certificate, the degree. Another, maybe your motivation is to add knowledge. You are adding knowledge, the student wants a certificate, and that's why he's in order to finish. But you are not in order to finish because your motivation is different. So can you harmonize your two motivations? So lack of preparedness and supervisors, lack of knowledge skills, poor time management, and rigidity. I think I mentioned it. So lastly, in conclusion, it's important to evaluate ourselves with the following questions. What are our strengths as a supervisor? What are our strengths as a supervisor? Do we have any strength? And what are our weaknesses as supervisors? Because I believe we have strength and we have weakness. Yes. What feelings, perceptions, or attitude might affect my ability as a supervisor? Yeah. And am I knowledgeable in the area I'm supervising? Yeah. Then when you know yourself, you have been given someone to supervise, but you know yourself. Yeah. So are you knowledgeable in the area you are supervising? And again, do I ever go beyond the boundaries? Yes. Yeah. I don't want to expound on the boundaries because you know them. There are very many. Yeah, the lines are very many. Yeah. So it depends on the line which somebody is crossing. Yeah. So do we ever go beyond the boundaries? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Maybe I think express something.
Okay, this is just a concern from the relation to post-provision. I think in the process of the presentation, you mentioned something about who supervisors the student of this probably see as a lot of harmonies in the two supervisors. And I think sometimes that can be challenging for the student. I don't know whether it can be possible for it to be done differently. Such that the two supervisors work together and give like a common standpoint, some issues they want to address. So that the student is only getting harmonized opinions as opposed to different opinions, and he or she doesn't know which one how to take. And sometimes it can be two opinions on the same.
I want to differ on that because remember that this is a learning process. And two, this student is in between. And the student has a relationship with both of them. The relationship here is key. The relationship is the one which will make the student approach the two supervisors differently. Because we don't have monopoly of information and intellectual learning, my colleague will not be able to visualize things the way I'm visualizing them. He'll be able to visualize them differently from the way I'm visualizing them. And the student will also be able to visualize them differently from the way the two of us are visualizing them. So in the light of that, the student should be able to pick the two scenarios and bring in his own view of the same. And that's why the student will bring the correction to the both of us. And we will be able to agree at one point and say that, yes, this is right. Can we move forward? At times it happens that one of the supervisors might want to impose his way of thinking. Yeah. And it becomes a very big challenge to the student and even the other supervisor. Because if the student is doing what my colleague is saying always, then I lose meaning in the supervision process. Yeah. And that's why it is always important for the two supervisors also to have a relationship. Besides the student having a relationship between the two supervisors should also have a relationship. They should be able to share, because I believe that they have been brought together by a common interest. They are professionals in the same line. Because they are professionals in the same line, they are likely to reason the same. They are likely to have a point of convergence, yeah, as they reason. So the two supervisors must have a relationship. You cannot have a supervisor who does not see eye to eye with the other supervisor. Because the student now becomes a punching bag. And I think that was the scenario a long time ago. Yes. Whereby lecturers or supervisors used to settle their differences with the students. Yeah. This supervisor tells you this, the other one tells you this. And that's why most of the students had to drop. Yeah, they could not finish their work. Yeah. So it is also your responsibility as the supervisor, because you are in between. It's like you are a mediator. Yes. If there is anything which you see that it's not resonating well with both of them, kindly make them understand. Kindly make them buy your reasoning. Even if they are not seeing eye to eye, can you harmonize your view so that the other supervisor does not see that this is the view of my colleague? Put it in a way that it does not reflect the view of the other person, but an harmonized kind of what? And as you do that, explain. Yeah. Give evidence of what you have said. Because if you give me an evidence of an argument, then I'll have no option. But if you give an argument without an evidence, then I'm likely to trust it. And I'll be able to tell you that, no, that is my colleague who is telling you that. And I don't like the design of reasoning. You see, we bring our differences in you. But if you provide evidence, I'll be humble. They'll say that, yes, if this is the evidence, okay, then we can adopt this. So evidence-based kind of supervision as we harmonize the two, because it's very important. I don't like the idea, even though this is what you normally do, of whereby I send my comments to my colleague. Yeah. Then we go through them, then we send harmonized comments to the student. It's very easy for the student to complete within the stipulated time. Yeah, that is what we normally do at most times. But I can tell you that if we do it differently, the student will learn a lot. The student will be able to learn a lot. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think maybe we hold the questions. There is a plenary session in the afternoon of what has been touched. And in the interest of time, I know that William wanted to keep it, but as you come from lunch, we have a lot. But maybe we can move them into two: article writing and peer writing process. So that will be our session in the afternoon. And we realized that we needed much more time than 1 day. So maybe next time we'll see what to do. Yeah, so maybe if you're around me, I say a big thank you to the facilitators. We give them a clap as Lilian comes up to guide us. Yeah, one clap. Yeah, Lilian, guide us.
Lunch is ready, and it is going to be served here such that we save on time. Meaning that we have a agenda such that we see going forward on how we are. Then we see that we have something from the library, and that is more of a practical session for this which was there. But that one I'm not sure what we introduce, and we have challenges, we will use it forever. Just being technical on how to run student work, be it family members through the times, and I know the university has 400 rights. So you can have your account that the university has created for you to check it against an plagiarism. So we discuss them with you at promotion. You're welcome to lunch. We are just meeting here. And we can have minutes that will be good. Yes. But again, it's going to take time wasting and the party that we're very patient.
Thank you for this session. We have one of deal that we have for us. We want to pray for the provision of those service that is from to Jesus and
Okay.